Hey guys, and welcome to the graphics performance guide for Guild Wars 2. And oh boy, if I have made this game fly on very low-end computers, and it's not the case today on the computer we're recording, but I've learned so much, I'm gonna share that with you. It's not all on the graphics panel, by the way. So today I want to show you what all of these do, and some of also here. What hardware these affect, so you know if you have better CPU or better GPU to set this to higher or lower, and then tell you also what you should be setting it to if you'd rather have 60 FPS all the time no matter what, or you'd rather maybe even play at 30 FPS while having a very beautiful game. Okay, that's really what we're gonna be taking a look at today. So let's get quickly started with it. We are at 1440p, that is just my case, but normally you will want to play the game at native resolution. That means you're not gonna have squished out pixels and so on, stretched out, that can't even fit in on the grid that an LCD is. Only CRT can really look fine on lower resolution than the intended native one, right? Otherwise you definitely want to go native, and I have some ways to actually play on lower resolution while on native. More on that later. Now, frame limiter and vertical sync, we're going to talk about that at the very end of this. Interface size does not affect this in any shape or form. However, if you are past 1080p, you may actually not want to use normal. Say in 1440p, you actually want to go to large. I don't even know when you want to go to larger, but that's a thing. Maybe you can see. That's something. Now, we're not going to be using a preset, of course. We're going to be going one by one and setting these. Now, animation relies on CPU. Okay, let's actually go over what taxes your CPU first, and one of them is animation. Animation is everything from, you know, this little things going on here in car stuff, and that is actually handled by animation. It's physics, right? And physics are not using the NVIDIA physics stuff, so it's not GPU. This is actually CPU, and this affects everything from clothing and so on. You can actually get an outfit like this. Okay, forget the dye, I just quickly move that, but you get the idea. All this flowing that occurs here is handled by this animation. If you have a powerful GPU, even from i5 and on, you can go high on this already, and it's going to make the game just look so much better on all the animations and effects that you see, everything that is moving parts. Oh, sorry, I need to go back to this. All right. Now, the other thing that affects your CPU is actually not on this panel. It is on audio, okay, on sound options, and it is on sound quality. Okay, this is going between fastest and highest quality. You're gonna set how much processing goes into your audio. You can keep it on highest quality for the highest quality, and if you have an i7, you can definitely do so. But if you have an i5, you can actually go all the way down to the middle, right? And if you have a low-end or mid-range or early i5 or less, you may actually want to go to this, which is a fairly sweet spot, or fastest if you're desperate. If your CPU is just burning and you hear the sound effects kicking in really, you know, offset whenever there's too many of them, or you see the game lagging for no reason when there are too many sound effects, that is because of this setting right here. If your CPU chokes, it does not matter how your GPU is, your whole system is going to choke. So you need to bear this in mind. In my case, I can currently go for the first time ever on highest quality all the time. I have no problems whatsoever. This may not be your case, so pay attention to that. Now, and by the way, I'm playing on a GTX 970. I don't know if I said that. GTX 970 and i7, 8 gigs of RAM, nothing fancy. All right. So let's go over anti-aliasing. Now, normally you want to go either none or SMAA. Low or high, I personally don't tell a difference on my setting. I can slightly see a difference on high, but really there's not really a performance gap here. There is between this and none for mid to low range graphic cards, and you actually want to stay in none if you can handle this. FXIA makes everything look too blurry. Before we had no option on Guild Wars 2. Now we do, so you either use SMAA if it doesn't kick you, more than 5 FPS, and if it does, you may actually want to keep it a none, unless you're really desperate about those jaggy edges. But there's another way around this, and we're going to talk about this later. Now, environment. This is going to define how many, well, it pretty much tells you here, but the complexity of the terrain, props, decals, and ground cover is going to increase all those details that you see. This also affects, say, the footprints on the snow whenever you run. There's no snow here, but you get the idea. All of those are being affected by this setting, right? If you have a medium range graphic card, you actually, or even slightly lower, you actually want to go to medium. Okay, only go to high if you really have the extra power, right? And you have a, I don't know, I don't want to talk in terms of like different brands and models and so on, but if you have a fairly high range graphic card for Guild Wars 2, high is fine. You're not gonna have any issues with it. It's not gonna have big performance hit. Now, LOD distance defines the amount of detail on distant objects. All right. So if we take a look at, say, I don't know if I can find any object here, but say the tree right there, that tree right there, we're gonna set this down to low. Okay, you can see the whole mountain changing. Actually, you can see that at the lowest setting, right? So I pretty much forced this to change. Now some objects won't change because this is done live and it's not done properly or evenly, but you get the idea. Objects on distance will have a lower quality. Okay, that is meant for your system to be more performance while having high quality objects right around you. Now if you have a higher end graphic card, you can just go to ultra, right? If you have a medium range graphic card, you actually want to set this to medium, not even high. Okay, so you these objects on the distance are not taxing you. But again, if you have a fairly high graphic card or just simply like a Titan and so on, then ultra is just something you can do, and there's barely any difference between high and ultra. Okay, definitely there is between medium and the rest, but not between high and ultra. There's barely any difference, and some objects will still go on low quality on the distance, even on ultra. Okay, this is not unlimited. Then we have reflections. Turn this off. Turn this off. If you have issues, I'm gonna point you the biggest taxing stuff that you could have for your graphic card, and among others I'm gonna mention later, this is one of the biggest ones. If you have a mid-range or low-range graphic card, set this to none, period. There's a big performance hit the moment you have any kind of reflections activated, and the game just, I mean, the waters look beautiful, sure, but you're gonna have a very crappy experience. Okay, we hit a loading screen. There's not much water here anymore, but between, let's see, does this have any reflection? Okay, there we go. You can see the difference. Like they just put random water, that's it. But with high you can actually, oops, sorry, with all you can actually see the objects and so on. I can't get close, so I can't really show you that, but trust me, it looks beautiful in certain parts of the game. All right. And yeah, that is something you want to stay away if you have medium or low range graphic card. It taxes on you a lot, and it only affects really the reflections of waters, and you can really get used to not having this beautiful yet simple reflection. Doesn't really change the gameplay in any way. So yeah, that's a thing. I personally love reflections, but this is really the last thing you really want to activate. Now for textures, this is bound more to not for the processing power really for the most part, but the RAM that you have on the graphic card. If you have 1 gig or more on this game, you can already go high on textures and high-res character textures. This check right here on the bottom, and your computer is gonna be just fine. You're gonna have super high detail characters all over the place. If you have less than 1 gig, you may actually want to disable this and take textures down to medium if high is being an issue, right? If you're below 500 megabytes, then you wanna then definitely do medium or even low. Okay. In my case, I've been playing with high and ultra in 500 megabytes. Yep. I didn't have any issue, but that's me. Render sampling. This is really interesting. So this one will. See, for high-end graphic card only. High-end graphic cards will have an easier time to switch between even subsample and super sample without having any performance hit whatsoever. Okay, this will define at what resolution the graphics are being drawn. not displayed but drawn. You can see I am at 1440p, which is 2.5K, right, in other terms. But in native, this would be drawn at well, 2.5K or 1440p, which is my resolution, right? But if I went, say, native, let's go here, you're gonna barely see any difference right now, although on other scenarios you're gonna see more grass and more detailed stuff and so on. But at super sample, what's happening is that this is being drawn not at 2.5K but at 5K, and then it's shrink down live so I can see it at 1440p. You can notice, by the way, that the interface does not change. This also means that I can go subsample, and at 1440p I can actually see everything at 720p. Okay, for a big performance boost on medium to low end graphic cards. Okay, on high end I can't even tell a difference, but on a medium or low end graphic card, definitely stay away from super sample, even if stuff look better, and it comes with pretty much it's a natural anti-aliasing, because you know things may be aliased, right? But whenever it's drawn a huge scale then shrink down, it's pretty much like the retina display or high DPI display effect, on which you know things don't really have anti-aliasing, but because of the resolution you can't really tell, and this is pretty much recreating that same effect. So I personally been playing on my lower end computers in subsample, but with everything pretty much maxed out, and it works really well. Like subsample and normal can have like a 20 or 30 FPS improvement. It's amazing on, again, medium to low end graphic cards. Then shadows. You definitely want to stay away from ultra unless you can really handle it for rather high-end graphic cards. For medium range, you can already go high, and there is no performance hit between high and medium. Really, there is none. Okay, you can clearly tell the difference between this and ultra, because it will just draw a lot of shadows very far away in the distance. You can barely tell whenever it stops being the case. My frame rate dropped, but I'm gonna tell you why later. It has nothing to do with this. You can see like this is how far these ultra shadows are kicking in, which is really far, to the point I can't even tell, or I don't even see the popping, even if I'm going fast. Okay, there we go. So that's a thing. So if you have a lower end graphic card, definitely you want to stay at low. Don't go none. None looks just shitty. At least have low, so you can have this smudge on the ground. It's not gonna have any performance hit whatsoever. At medium you already have dynamic shadows, so you have to bear that in mind. Okay, even if it's very low quality, low res shadows, they're still dynamic, and that already consumes a lot. Okay, all of a sudden. So you need to bear that in mind. Now, shaders and post-processing, we're gonna go over these together. So these two have a very big performance hit that if you turn down all the way down to the bottom, especially post-processing, you're gonna see a completely different game. Like, what is this? It's actually, she looks kind of creepy. I'm sorry, aesthetics, but you look kind of creepy with this. Post-processing is pretty much affecting all the tinting that is going on, as well as the bloom and the sun rays and so on. But it's amazing how even in low it looks like crap. Okay, low gets all the bloom and depth blurring and so on. Portal distortion, as it mentions, character outlines and so on. You can see you don't even get character outlines whenever you click at stuff with no post-processing. So low is pretty much a must, but you know what? Even highest, because otherwise you're looking at a completely different game with different colors. It's amazing, the change. So I strongly recommend, unless you really need the FPS, you keep this one and also shaders high, so you can see things clearly. Now let me explain you what shaders do for a second. So if you take a look at the terrain, now this is not the best example I can give you. Let's go to the DPS trials section. So in here we have some better examples, which is the ground right here. So if we're gonna take shaders from low, which is true, this has shaders. All 3D graphics engines use shaders always, but this is at low. If I set it to medium, take a look at what happens to these stairs right here. Okay, pay attention to this, and go. Take a look at that. See that? What is that texturing going on? Well, this is actually a shader that tells the graphic card how to render the surface according to the lighting, so you can actually add these dents and so on and make it look like it's a very complex surface, when in reality we can see this is flat. but this is like a special added effect that can make things look like they have a bevel. Even if I add like some lighting effect, right, that can change that. Okay, I think this one does. Okay, here, see, you can see that difference in here in all the colors, like they're bright in different angles because of that added light source. This is all done by shaders, and the game looks so much better, the terrain looks so much better because of the effects that shaders can do. I strongly recommend you stay at least a medium if you can't handle high. And of course, if you go high, you're gonna see more shining effects and more beautiful game. Like you can see all the glow around the character, which is like a fixed light on the character that is always on the right side of the character, and it just makes everything look beautiful. That together with high post-processing, you get a beautiful looking game. And again, I personally prefer to have this both high and then see how I tweak the rest, so you know I can have fairly good amount of FPS. Now let's go over. No, you know what? We're gonna leave these two to the very end. But these two are the highest consuming stuff you're gonna have to deal with. Okay, this can change your entire FPS, all this alone. But we're gonna leave that to the very end. Let's go over ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion has been added later on in the game, just like SMAA. And if I turn it off, you can see a difference between like all the corners here and the grass. You can see, like, take a look at the bottom of the grass. You can see that shadow appearing and disappearing. Also in the corners right here. And that is pretty much ambient occlusion, is adding shadows where the light is not supposed to hit. Okay, it's really hard to actually render a realistic kind of shadows, but ambient occlusion is sort of like a kind of fake, but not too fake way of adding shadows instead of actually bouncing through lights everywhere, where lights shouldn't normally hit. And it's going to make everything pop more and have more depth in the details. This will have a fairly important performance hit on medium or low end graphic cards. You will want to stay away from it unless you have a higher end graphic card. In fact, this is one of the last settings you should turn on, together with reflections, even if it doesn't tax not even as half of as that one, but you get the idea. Best texture filtering, I recommend it off, and then you use your NVIDIA graphic card control panel or whatever you have to set it to the max anisotropic filtering, whether it is 8x or 16x on your graphic card, because for some reason this method lags more. It may not lag as much on high-end graphic card, but on medium or low-end this lags a lot, and I don't even know why. So definitely off, and then force the highest anisotropic filtering you can, and you're gonna barely see any difference in performance. That's awesome. Now depth blur, it adds a blur on the distance objects, as you can see, maybe like right here. I can turn it on and off, and you can barely see any difference. It's a very soft blur that they added. Take a look at that tree right there. You're gonna see some change on the detail, but barely. Many people don't like it, many people do. I personally do, so I keep it. The performance hit is minimum. On a medium graphic card, it's going to be a few FPS. On a low end, it will be actually way more. So in that case, you actually want it off at all, completely. Well, you don't really get options anyways, do you? Now, effect LOD, this is important. This one will put a limit on how many effects you can have on the screen. This is important if you do World vs. World, okay? 1 meter shower is fine, but when you have 10, let's put it this way. Whenever you have two circs encountering each other, and you can see like your frame rate is like 20 FPS, maybe it's dropping really bad, but whenever they actually impact, they actually drop all those scales and so on the same place, you can see your computer freeze for a second and just them bursting like weird frame rates and so on. That is because of all there is no more objects in there pretty much. What happened is that there are so many effects that your computer just can't handle all those sudden effects popping all together. So what you can do is put a limit on them. The downside is that you're gonna just see this ring, but not the effect in it. I mean, you're gonna normally see them. I mean, I can activate the LOD, and you're gonna see the ring, and you're gonna see all the meters, everything fine. But whenever you have too many, you're only gonna see the rings on some of them, right? Oh, now I'm in combat. You're gonna see the ring in some of them. but not all. So you're not going to be able to tell them that well which areas are there, which are harmful. I mean, you're going to see the red ring, but that's it. It's going to make it much more difficult to tell what everything is, but of course your performance is going to not tank whenever two Zergs encounter it. High-res character textures, I talked about this before. Light adaptation will not affect your rendering performance at all, but it will make it look more like the eye. So you know, whenever you're like in a dark cave, so like it starts really dark and then lights sort of light up, and it's not because lights light up, but your eye got used to it. They have that effect, they already have it, and you can turn it off, but this enhances that effect pretty much and makes it more intense, and adds it to pretty much everywhere. So that, and whenever you come out of the cave, everything is bright, and then it tones down. This increases that effect pretty much, but you can actually turn it off completely. Now let's go over vertical sync before we hit the worst bad boys right here. So vertical sync will tell the graphic card to draw everything in the send the whole buffer, the whole scene that it has drawn to the screen at pretty much the beginning of a new drawing cycle on the screen. It will mean that you won't have tearing whenever you do like this horizontal movement, right? Not vertical, but horizontal movement, right? So whenever you're panning the camera, I personally get a lot of tearing because it's a 60 hertz monitor, not a 4 hertz one. So you definitely want this on unless you can't render at 60 FPS, okay? If you can't render even at 45, let's say you can do 35 or 30, you definitely want to put a cap to it, at least to 30, right? And the reason why is because you want a steady frame rate over maybe a few extra frames, but then have it dropped, right? And whenever it drops, you're gonna see stuttering. So you do not want actually the frame rate to go over, over the top, like 60 FPS, then 120, then back to 60, because in that difference, you're gonna see stuttering, even if it's over 60 FPS all the time, because times are changing. Okay, you want constant time between each frame, and this is what frame limiter can give you. Vertical sync will force it to the pretty much what's the hertz of refresh rate of your monitor, and in my case it's 60. So I strongly recommend this. You're not gonna get any tearing. Some people claim that you have input lag, but again, if I have 200 ping, 1 extra millisecond, I'm not gonna tell. Really, I'm not gonna tell. So that's I understand that user interface lag is different than just regular lag, but still, unless you're a high competitive FPS player playing in LAN, I think you're barely gonna tell the difference. And if you do and it bothers you, you can turn it off. But otherwise, for better fidelity and barely no performance hit whatsoever, you're gonna have a few FPS drop with this. By the way, if you turn it on, your computer is barely reaching those 60 FPS. But otherwise, you can put it on, and it's going to be perfect for having a very solid image whenever you look around. Now to these guys. Oh man! In order to show you that, we're gonna go here. Okay, so this is my FPS right now. This is 30 FPS. We're gonna actually we're gonna increase the field of view to the max. This is tanked at 20, then going to 30 and so on. This is not good. What's going on? Is it because of my model quality? Because of the models being of such high quality? No, it's actually the limit. I can set this to highest, it won't matter. It will stay at 23 FPS. I mean, sure, I need to refresh it, but it will pretty much be the same. However, if I set this down to lowest, oh, look at that. This is already looking much better. 33 FPS, 40 FPS, what is going on? Well, the thing is, the more objects that need to be drawn on the screen, the more drawing calls need to be done to the graphic card to draw all this. And the problem is that that is the biggest bottleneck for a graphic card, a lot of drawing calls. That is what kills any graphic card, including a Titan X or whatever. That is a universal thing that graphic cards just tank. on. So you do not want a lot of objects on your screen. Okay, you can have a huge world that is full of very high polygon stuff, but as long as it's just one huge drawing call, it's all right. The problem is when you have a lot of even low poly objects on the scene. A lot of objects is really what kills a graphic card. So if you have a low-end graphic card, lowest. Sure, you're only gonna see the 3 people around you. It's actually more like 10 or 15, but yeah, it's going to be quite sad, but this is the best you can do. And if you have a mid-range graphic card, you can already go to low, and if you have a high-end, you can go to medium. Okay. If you want to go to higher, I mean you can, but I mean you can try going to highest if you have a Titan and I don't know, you're using Crossfire or SLI. Not sure if this actually gets affected. So for this matter, you actually want to keep this at low or medium. In my case, I'm doing medium, but my FPS will tank whenever I do this. Now the quality will define whether or not to use the high quality models and textures on them. For the most part, this won't really affect much. You can set it down to medium and you're gonna see those like generic armor, dark armor people, right? Just doing like a healing animation even when they're healing or resting somebody. Yeah, those are the lower quality models and they will pop, right, whenever you need them. But they won't have a big performance hit on high-end graphic cards. Not even medium, maybe medium medium-end graphic cards. But on high-end, you can leave this to medium or high, and this will define the percentage of how many of those characters that are drawn are actually high quality. So that should pretty much help you pick the right choices and make the proper setup for you. For me, I'm just gonna find my right settings again. And thank you very much for watching. If you would like to see more Guild Wars 2 awesomeness, make sure you follow SimNation, and if you would like to see more interesting content like this, make sure you like it so you let me know you are into this stuff. But for now, that is all. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna suicide, and I'm gonna see you next time.
Oh, this is the most satisfying thing ever. We are God in SimCity 4. Wow, that was loud. Oh, you're gonna eat that, huh? You're gonna eat it. I see. What? Nothing. Okay.
And now she is tossing that salad with her... Stop sticking your finger in your ear! Alright, she's tossing the salad with her earwax.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
It doesn't really well. Okay.
Oh, they're coming for you, Pablo!
Shit,
Run!
Oh, yeah. These road trips, man, are killing me. Anyway, let me know whenever we are recording. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Extended Play. I'm your host, this is Stuart, and that is a fancy sign. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.